Yeah, also you were mentioning about the architects becoming much more like problem solvers the day before. Maybe we can extend that discussion.
Yeah, if you think about some recent projects, let's think to BIG or something like that, okay? Lots of those projects are not absolutely built, are not realized, are not constructed, okay? But they become really famous for the content they have, for the strategies they have, for the way of thinking about a thing in a different way, okay? And that's the point. That's the content of the synthetic part of the project. So the inner body, I could say, okay, of a project, the really important thing to preserve and to protect and to exploit in a way. And lots of contemporary projects are not built, absolutely, but they are very famous, more famous than built projects, okay? And that's the fact. When you get something interesting and improving and overturning into a project, looking at projects of the past or something like that. That's the point. That's the goal, I think, because we have completely and continuously to go further to make new way. Okay, to make new ways. That's it.
So being a problem solver means you have to be quite a bit of a generalist. So you're taking structural, environmental, social issues and combining them and spatially making it the way you want. And so actually, as an architect, you're quite a generalist normally on a day-to-day basis. Exactly. And it's only rarely maybe that in between the sort of normal projects you get to do some research, which is what we've done, and with the competitions to steal time and become specialists. So I think, in a way, the future is about balancing the skills you need to be a journalist and having some sort of specialism that enables you to really core down into something and really understand something really specifically.
As you can remember, lots of years ago, Vitruvio was used to say that an architect is a builder who knows the Latin language. And that's really important. That's really fascinating. Okay, the figure of the person who builds, who constructs, but that has culture, that has a knowledge in themselves. Okay, and that's pretty amazing after thousands of years. Okay, and that's a fact.
I think this discussion might be extended towards some urban discussion. Architect is no more building a single building. Perhaps he or she was not building a single building at a time, but the architect is adding some new artifact to the urban context. We are much more aware of that in this new situation. We should not think the single building out of the context, but I think what you mean by problem solving, you mean creating the less problem, creating the minimal problem for the environment or the city itself, because each building has problems as well as its use. So that might be another point of view, I think.
And I'm getting into the second section, which we will be talking much more about a comparison between the older generation and the younger generation, because most of you have worked in architecture offices before setting up your own office, so you know a little bit about what's going on in the older generation.
Start a fight.
Yeah, I will start a fight. What differences did you see between the older generation and your own generation, and how can these differences be transformed into opportunities for young architects?
Okay, don't want to speak first.
I think the most concrete example is the use of technology. I mean, this computer technology, the 3D printing technology, or things like that. That really makes positive contribution to the design process, I think, and that really changes the way we design and the way we look at the design process. I think architects were always, and also the older generation and the generations before those generations were always somehow pioneers. They were always looking forward. But what the advantage we have now with this technology in hand is making things very practical and faster, and we are very connected to the whole world. We can communicate easily. We can understand what's going on in other parts of the world. I think that's the major advantage of being an architect in this communication age. Other than that, I don't think the way of practicing architecture suddenly changes by generations. It's a very gradual change, I think.
So are you better or worse? Better or worse?
I don't want to say if it's better or worse.
Juste pour rebondir sur cette histoire d'informatique, je vous laisse mettre c'est un peu paradoxal parce que moi aussi j'ai senti la fracture de génération avant ordinateur, après ordinateur. Même après, le dessin assisté par ordinateur évolue très très vite. Et dans le système global dans lequel on commence à fonctionner tous, et tous les architectes, on se retrouve maintenant en concurrence à l'échelle européenne, mais aussi à l'échelle des continents et à l'échelle du monde. Il y a des normes en fait qui arrivent dans le dessin et dans la création assistée par ordinateur qui arrivent tous les 2 ans. Et je me souviens quand moi j'ai commencé à travailler chez des architectes que je considérais comme des vieux, voilà, qui me demandaient moi de passer sur informatique des choses qu'ils étaient incapables de faire, ce qui me paraissait logique. Maintenant on commence à avoir un certain nombre nous d'architectes dans l'agence, on redécouvre le plaisir du crayon, mais ça nous détache de l'évolution informatique. Puisque du coup on n'a plus vraiment le temps de produire nous-mêmes en fait en informatique. Et j'ai remarqué que ça va à une vitesse dingue. Là où on avait une révolution dans notre métier sur la manière de produire tous les 20 ans, j'irais c'est tous les 4 ans maintenant. Alors je pense que quand on sort de l'école on s'en rend pas forcément compte, parce qu'on est forcément dans le bon timing, au bon moment, mais il faut faire attention à ça, parce qu'on se retrouve très très vite vieux dans les outils de production, alors que vous êtes encore trop jeune pour aller à la rencontre des clients qui vous trouvent trop jeune. Un paradoxe total.
I think there's in that sense a very critical edge in the use of these tools, because it's becoming quite close to what it was to produce something, to use a pencil to draw, and I feel myself that I was at a time that these tools were just becoming available, and it was still and I'm good in drawing, so I didn't feel that much attracted at the moment where it started to draw on AutoCAD or these kind of 2D softwares at the time. So I think that now it's much different than 10 years ago. Now it's becoming back to this somehow research and artisanal, let's say, of making back again, because the new generation is born to it, and the younger architects, I think, will have more chances of integrating this not as a secondary layer, but as part of their thinking process. So I think we consider within the content of this conference ourselves as young architects, but in 10 years' time, we will get much easily older than the older generations compared to us, because of that issue of change, of the technology becoming really part of the making process. And I agree with you that, you know, beside thinking and designing, creating strategies, managing the office and so on, traveling, you don't have much time to exercise this. It's like a muscle, in fact. And there's a kind of a distance between the thinking and the making, again, in a different way, but it still exists. So that's going to be, I mean, we'll see how the upcoming generations will react to, you know, to this new world, which
I think you're
links us.
much more intuitive, the digital tools, and where at the moment we have to actively encourage our students to go from the digital to the hands-on. So always draw and then make something with their hands. I think in a way that maybe the further generations to come, it's already kind of embedded in them. The way they think and the way they draw on the computer is completely in tune. So the digital tools are incredibly powerful, but it could also really confuse a young architect, because there's so many potentials, you know. So you're drawing in the computer, you're drawing it one-to-one, and you can't really see the sort of bigger picture. That's one thing. But also it gives you many, many iterations. So you can go, you know, give me 100 options. And how do you, as a young architect, exercise sort of criteria to choose which option is the best one? And that's where, you know, going back to the journalists, sort of zooming out and thinking of all the other parameters, whether it's structural, environmental, or social, urban issues. I think it's incredibly important. But I think in the future it becomes much more sort of holistic.
Mm-hmm. But do we? It's me. Okay. But do we really think there is we can talk about this juxtaposition between the old and the young? Are you really convinced about that?
Well, I think...
Are you kidding me?
Well, I think there are more to talk about rather than the technological development, about the differences. For example, working transdisciplinary is introduced newly with the younger generation, and the research projects that Ali has been talking about is a new thing, maybe reintroduced, but I don't know if it was. I mean, 10 years ago we didn't see lots of research projects because it was just the architects' job was to build stuff. So now it's the role that the architect is taking on is changing with all these interdisciplinary works and so on.
But if I have to be honest, I think it's a nonsense, because it's a process. Architecture has always been a process, okay? You don't invent anything when you do something, and what you do is just a result of a process in time, okay? You have seen that movie, you've seen that architecture, you've seen that painting, and so you mix the element together, and then your idea comes out. But most importantly, if you think about, for example, the 60s or the 70s, let's think about the radicalism, the metabolism, okay? Lots of research movements and currents that have been constituting the architectural reflection and the architectural theory, we could say, in a way. They were in the past, okay, and so we're not inventing anything, reflecting now and just creating new theories about architecture. I don't think there's just any distinction or juxtaposition between the old and the young, because it's just a process, okay. And so we had fathers, and now we are the sons, and we will have sons, and I think it's quite natural in every single thing we do, or in every single job, maybe first of all in architecture, there is a continuous process of adding, and then eliminating, or maybe reconsidering, okay, and then just adding again. It's quite, I think that the concept in itself is a nonsense, the juxtaposition between the old or present and past, or old and young. I don't know if you know what I mean, or if I've been clear about that.
Maybe it's important to recognize times when there is an incredible speed in innovation, and that's to do with the tools, but not necessarily the process you're talking about. That's sort of ongoing. But I think there is a definite change in the speed of the power of the tools. You know, even in the last 7 years. Fabrication and everything becoming much more cost effective. So I think it's important to seize the opportunity to do something.
That's the point. Yeah.
But as I mean, once upon a time I learned Mason. I learned Mason, and to build a wall it was very simple. I mean, I learned it in France, and it's more simple than in Germany. But the fact of architecture that we all are quite specialized, and we're getting more and more specialized, makes somehow things so complicated. I mean, I like concrete as building, or as something to do things with concrete, but because we are so specialized in everything, we need a lot of more manpower to do something looking very simple and nice. And this is somehow a really big problem, I think, because in the end, as a designer, I have to discuss with at least 3 or 4 persons to say, is it possible really? And at the time I feel like Corbusier, he was saying, we do it like that, or Niemeyer, who else, and they just go for it. And I think our fathers, or maybe your father, he had this feeling still. And today we like let's say, nice competition, nice images. We are very happy it's on paper, but if you have to bring it in real, it's quite hard. And in Germany, it's so you even need so many people to make it then in the end. And I think that's a really big challenge, and I'm quite impressed by that fact. And another point is what's really changed too. I mean, we are in competition. I'm not doing a competition, and we go for open competition because we don't get in those kind of small scale competition. We don't have, let's say, the point. There's a system of points. You have to build a school to get in a competition for a school. You have to, and so even for the big offices in Germany, it's really a challenge. I mean, I work for Professor Garkic, it's my teacher. He has an office in Munich, 30 persons, but he's not getting in a school competition, for example. I mean, and he's now 15 years on the market, and he's very, let's say, he's not bad, let's say. And so it's really difficult. So what is in the end, even as designer, he has to get in a cooperation with another architect who is maybe did already a school, but let's say is not that talented. So they have a kind of compromise in design things, and I think that's really something really changed in the last 20 years or 15 years or 10 years, I don't know. And in terms of really pure design, I think sometimes you have too many cooker. It's in the end, let's say, German kitchen and Turkey kitchen is not that fitting as Greece and Turkey kitchen, let's say, maybe, I don't know. So it's, I think there we have, that will be a real challenge, I think, to solve that. And so it's, yeah, difficult. That's, I think, my most important point is from the difference from the past, the other generation of architects to our generation to face those problems.
I think it's in a way I see it as a chance as well, because the chance that we have, beside all the distractions that these new technologies and communication that we get, there is also the benefit that we can actually communicate with far distances very easily, and getting together to design something or to think about a design problem in different levels, that makes it possible. You can imagine 7-hour, 8-hour distance, and now we can just directly, have simultaneously, get together, and it's still very difficult, but that made it possible to collaborate with people that you can maybe never meet, never have the chance to meet, maybe 30 years ago. This will bring something quite new that is not that much explored, I believe, yet. Beside the major, entities that have the that have the possibilities in terms of investment, etc. But I feel that it's coming to an age that it will be in that manner much more flexible and the sharing will make a difference in the way that we design and we think and we exercise this profession. There is a positive way of, I don't know, looking at it.
No, but you're right somehow.
Je pense qu'il y a un point commun transgénérationnel. C'était, on parlait de la naïveté, mais cette naïveté s'accompagne d'un certain regard sur le monde. Et ce regard dépend, et comme tu disais tout à l'heure, de l'historique, de l'histoire de nos pères en architecture qui nous permet de fonder en fait une évolution de la pensée, une évolution des courants, une évolution de notre métier par rapport au temps actuel, par rapport à la demande aussi de la société. Mais ce qui est important de retenir, c'est quoi qu'il arrive, par rapport aux anciennes générations, et je suis persuadé par rapport aux générations qui arrivent et puis les suivants, il y a un certain regard sur le monde, une capacité à prendre une distance que peu, à mon avis, de métiers ont, quel que soit le sujet, quel que soit le lieu, quels que soient les demandes. Et ça, c'est un vrai point commun. Et notre outil principal, j'en reviens toujours à la même chose, c'est cette fameuse naïveté, qui, à mon avis, est un bien extrêmement précieux et qu'il faut arriver à garder tout au long de sa carrière.
Now I think we can much more easy to get the information, something like the drawing, the technology we can easy to get. But I agree with Nicolas to say that we need to care about the globalization. We need to maybe much easy to make, such as in China, we can use the language in Europe or in American, something like that. They build a city in China, something like that. For the new generation or the young people, it's very quickly to do this. This is quite, because for the, as we say, in the new generation, he just care, maybe he care about much more the drawing technology, something like that. But I think we need to rethink about the culture, local culture. I think I am agree with Nicolas to say that it is the Latino, c'est ça? Latino? C'est the culture local qui font de la révolution. Okay.
And this concept of local is getting much more crucial in time because after all this recession and the economical crisis, it seems that the national economies are very much vulnerable. So architecture is not able to be practiced with a good economy. So the architecture practice is getting much more global. And in this sense, this new trend is very much affecting and is also affected by the young generation. How do you develop your designs while working in different geographies? And how does this knowledge change the way you perceive local? I mean, when doing a project in another country, what do you learn while you are doing stuff also in your country? So,
I suppose going from a spot in London to another area in London, it's like working in another country sometimes. And it's almost like you're hunting for clues, and so you've got to be quite instinctual about it, I think, because sometimes we were talking earlier that you could have too much knowledge, of if you're working in a specific village, you know too much, and then that kind of encumbers you from doing something that's maybe about the future. Because in a way, architecture is about making what doesn't exist already into something, into existence. So actually, you're projecting the future of a place, whether it's a building or an artwork. So it doesn't exist yet. And so what you're doing is looking for the best possible sort of clue to help you shape this idea and go on from there. So there's a fantastic advantage in being an outsider, as well as gaining as much inside knowledge as possible.
If I have to talk, if I have to talk about my, okay, that's right. If I have to talk about my experience, I have to say that every single time I have to do a project in another country, the first time I do is going there. I go there, take a beer, stay with people, enjoy the music, okay. Why? You say, oh, it's very simple, because if you do a project in a country that's not yours, that is not yours, you have to know, first of all, the spirit of that place, the spirit of that particular country you're working in, because it's not a question of doing an internationalized architecture. And so I take my McDonald's architecture, okay, it's like an hamburger that is equal in Houston, in New York, in Milan, in Istanbul, okay, and everywhere in the world. It's sort of a McDonald's architecture I don't really like, and I really stigmatize that kind of architecture. I'm just taking a position about that because I really hate that. The architecture that is equal and identical to itself every single time and every single place you see it, okay? It's absolutely not understandable. So understanding, first of all, the spirit of the place, and then being so delicate in what you do, because I think that we have a great responsibility. Every single line we draw with the pen on the paper is just writing people's biography for me. When you draw a line on a paper, you're writing people's biography. Don't forget that, because you have a great responsibility in doing that, okay? You're not doing a joke, you're not kidding anyone, okay? But you're writing people's biography, because architecture is a stage for life for me, okay? So that's really important to understand, because every single time you do something out of your house, okay, it's not in my backyard, okay, so I can do everything I want, okay, it's not in my backyard, okay, no, it's not like that, okay, you have to do that with, you have to be delicate, and you have to be respectful, first of all, respectful. You have respect for what you do and for the place you are. For me, we had a fantastic story, because some years ago we were awarded by Renzo Piano at it was an important award, and we were awarded by Renzo Piano, and so some photos of that event were circulating on the net, and one day we received a phone call. Okay, good morning, we would like to talk with Renzo Piano. No, we are not the studio of Renzo Piano, okay, Renzo Piano is not here. Okay. And that was a turning point. That lucky situation was a turning point, because from that day, lots of contacts with the United States started, and then we opened, for that lucky day, for that lucky situation, we opened a smart office just in the U.S. and just recently near Houston. And that office is just following the projects overseas, and it's quite amazing. Very, very hard to follow, because you know that Americans are very different from Europeans and so on. But it's really hard, but proving, because if you want to work, you have to go abroad. You have to go out of your house. You have to go out of your country in some cases, and you have to get the courage to do that if you want really pursue your goals. Don't have the fear to do that. If you really want to, you have to do that. You have to keep the fire burning, okay? If you really want to, but you have to really, you must be wanting that, okay? You must really desire that, yeah, okay? To keep the fire burning with passion every day, okay? Keep the fire. Right.
It seems that rather than for example, urban fabric or something, the cultures are much more different, because now it's just every city is much more the same. So
it's not a question of materials, mainly not a question of materials or shapes or something like that. It's just about the spirit of the place. So the good distance between things, for example, I've been just around Istanbul in these days, and I've just noticed there's always a great and good distance between things. Okay, things are put together with a great and intelligent distance. So there's a sort of tension between objects, between architectures, between fronts. Okay, the streets are always so fascinating, not really...
Are you talking about Istanbul?
Oh yeah, it's really fascinating, really messed up, okay, messed up, it's really messed up. Traffic jams everywhere, it's really dramatic, because I live in a place where I can go with bicycle, I can go walking without any problem, okay? And so I was just planted here, and it was quite amazing and dramatic at the same time. But you have to firstly understand the spirit of that place, the rules that are just undercover, okay? The relationship between things.
I think there are more chances to get that feeling on this side of the globe, because there are still, the city fabrics are already, not entirely erased or destroyed. Still I find it very enriching experience to go and try to understand and communicate with when you go outside abroad of your own environment. Even just to try to convince people who doesn't speak your language, who doesn't know your culture much, and you don't know maybe enough of theirs, and still you have to bring this idea, and I'm saying convincing because they are also opening themselves to to receive in some ways, and I find it quite interesting that when you go. We were trying to build this roof in Shenyang project, and we had so many different versions of the thing that we wanted to build, but definitely not the one that we wanted to see over there to provide the exact feeling that we were looking for. And still at the same time I find it very interesting to go through that tons of barriers to jump on, to get to that made us actually to understand what we were dealing with by through all this process of design and talking about it, trying to make it realized. And when we come back to here, it's really quite a different. We feel how we were actually relaxed in our country because of the communication, and even that exercise I think helped quite a lot to have a more open-minded way of looking things, and even to the design that we think that it's over and it's ready and it's ready to go there. You might still have to reconsider some of the things, and in terms of the local, for example, that roof, we were at the time, everything was engineered to a certain level, and the site manager just proposed. We flew to Beijing, and after 8 hours flight, we received that mail that they were saying, okay, look, this is, he made a list of things that why we shouldn't make that roof, and in addition to that, there was a little picture. Very tiny one-line sketch showing how it should be. And we were obviously a little bit devastated of especially if, I mean, as it was after the flight, we were a little bit moved. And for that week only, we were there just to convince back that we need to find it. And luckily, after 3 or 4 contractors that we have met, we've met this this person who built the Shanghai Expo, you know, these flower-shaped structures, and I mean, he was here a couple of weeks ago in Istanbul for a conference, and I mean, things happen, and sometimes it does have a twist to go on something that you desire, and sometimes it doesn't. And I think the nice thing about our profession as well is that you can still get something out of it. You know, it's not even a failure is not really a failure, and it's not like in other professions where it's that fatal. You can still, you know, make it turn to something much more creative. In a way.
Oui. Nous, on va, comme tu disais très bien, il faut aller à la rencontre. Enfin, l'idée, c'est d'aller à la rencontre des lieux, des pays, des villes sur lesquelles on a l'intention de travailler. Et nous, notre démarche a toujours été la même, c'était en fait de travailler par association. C'est-à-dire qu'on a toujours considéré qu'aller à la rencontre d'un pays, c'était aussi aller à la rencontre des confrères. Et à chaque fois qu'on a travaillé sur des dossiers, soit en dehors de la France, en Europe, mais également en Guyane, par exemple, qui est la France, mais voilà, en Amérique du Sud, on a toujours travaillé par association, d'abord parce que c'est la culture de l'agence, que ça fonctionne bien, et surtout, ça permet, à mon avis, de gagner énormément de temps sur justement toutes ces notions. Alors oui, il y a tout le contexte réglementaire, administratif et tout ça, mais il y a aussi, en allant à la rencontre des architectes de ces lieux-là, on va d'une manière, on accélère en fait la rencontre de la société. Enfin, et ensuite, ils vous ouvrent des portes assez rapidement, et je trouve que ça accélère énormément le processus d'analyse du site, d'analyse du contexte, et ensuite ça facilite bien évidemment la sortie du projet. Et pour rebondir là-dessus, je pense que dans un système global dans lequel on travaille actuellement, pour les jeunes, parce que c'est un peu l'idée, de se dire comment on peut avancer. Parfois, quand on a une toute jeune agence, on n'a pas forcément conscience qu'on a une petite pièce d'un puzzle, d'un dossier, qui peut permettre justement par un effet d'association avec des architectes sans doute plus reconnus, sans doute un peu plus grands, ayant une plus grande envergure, de pouvoir accéder ensemble à des dossiers auxquels vous n'auriez pas forcément imaginé pouvoir accéder au départ. Et c'est un peu à mon avis la qualité de la globalisation pour la génération qui arrive, c'est effectivement cette capacité à pouvoir faire des montages ensemble très facilement.
Maybe we now let the audience ask some questions so that we can extend further the discussion.
Okay.
Who's first?
That's always a dramatic moment. Okay, now the light is up.
Wake up.
Now we can see you. Now we can see you, okay?